How's it going, gamers? BB here. Welcome back to my channel. The Fusion Champion is also here with us. Listen to your Beast Bane is now live, and you can check him out in the summoning portal. And we can also see Yuzan the Marooned. But I wanna just leave that where it's at for a couple of minutes, and I wanna actually pay attention to the other new champions that were added to the index today. One of them being the faction unity champion of the Sylvan Watchers. You guys, this is exciting news. Wanna check them out, talk a little bit about them, and then we're gonna go back to the fusion. I'll tell you what I think about the fusion and whether I'll participate. Stay with me, right? You know how much I love the Sylvan Watchers, so I gotta give them the stage. Stop right there. Click on the link in the description box right now to get one free legendary and one amazing epic as you level up. Here are the exact steps you need to follow. Step 1. Log off of Plarium Play on PC and uninstall. If you've never installed Raid on your mobile phone before, this link is gonna work there as well. Step 2. Click the link and register with a brand new email. Step 3. Launch Raid and complete the tutorial. Step 4, go to your inbox, and here we go! You'll find Bambus here as well as Ugo when you get to level 15. Don't forget to use the promo code Supreme6 to get Supreme Gaelic for free! This is an amazing account start in Raid, you guys, so click on my link right now and follow the steps. I'm very excited that this faction is growing because, from what I know, and I'm just a new player, but this is one of the newer factions that were added to the game. So it is a work in progress from what I'm understanding, but I'm so happy that they came to exist because they are one of my favorite factions, you guys. And now we're getting a Rathea corpse flower, and look at how cute she is. She's a little fairy of the flowers, and I love how this is actually a carnivorous plant on top of that. Ma'am, that is a predator. I love the vibes, absolutely obsessed with the character design. I want to see what she does. First of all, not super thrilled that she's a void Lego, because they are super evasive. There's no need to tell you how hard it is to get a legendary champion on this game. I have 2 mythicals, but I don't have a single legendary void champion, and that should tell you something about the rates of spawn here. But regardless, I want to see if this is gonna be one of those champions that I will just lust over, and I'll probably have to accept that I'll never get. I'm seeing Hex here, and I'm seeing an attack aura. Nuker under the form of fairy. I really want to pair her with Oella, and I want to see if they have a synergy thing going on, whether they'll be besties. Her A1 fills her turn meter by 10%, and by an additional 10% if the enemy she's attacking is under a hex debuff. Will counterattack using the skill when hit by enemies under a hex debuff. Very, very cool. Attacks all enemies twice. I don't even need to hear anything else. Damage increases by 10% for each enemy under a hex debuff. We'll ignore shield and strengthen. Very nice. We'll also ignore block damage buffs on enemies under a hex debuff. Oh, how exciting! Fills this champion's turn meter by 30%. Fills this champion's turn meter by an additional 20% for each enemy killed by this skill. What an arena nuker, you guys. What am I reading here? This is so exciting. 50% turn meter fill if she kills one single enemy. A single enemy. That is an additional 20%. She could get a full turn meter fill if she manages to kill more than 3. More than 2? How does this even work? What's the math on that? That's insanely fast. Armand's level of control here. What is this turn meter fill, brother? Now this is the hex, right? This is the hex. What? And a death brand? Hold up. Places a 50% increase accuracy buff on all allies for 2 turns first. Then has a 75% chance, when you book that out, that's a 100% chance of placing a death brand on a targeted enemy for 2 turns, and also has a 100% chance of placing a hex debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. A death brand and a hex at the same time? Are you kidding me? The death brand? I don't know about a lot of champions that come with Death Brand, and if you don't know, Death Brand is the skill that the Iron Twins use. Wait, I haven't finished. There's a block damage here that I just saw. When and how? Okay, when she places that Hex and Death Brand, she gets a 50% turn meter fill, and then an additional 10% for each debuff placed by this skill. So if the Death Brand and the Hex land on all enemies, oh boy. That is a full turn meter fill once again. Also places a block damage buff on this champion for 1 turn just because. I'm absolutely shocked at what I'm reading here. This is an S tier champion, S tier nuker. I want to hear her passive. If this champion kills 1 or more enemies in a battle, will ignore 10% of any target's defense. 10% is helpful, very helpful. If this champion kills 2 or more enemies in a battle, this champion will receive a shield buff equal to 40% of their max HP for 2 turns at the start of their own turn. So is it enough for her to just kill 2 or more enemies and every time she'll get a shield buff after this interaction? If this champion kills 3 or more enemies in a battle, each attack will decrease the target's turn meter by 10%. So each attack, you don't count the double slasher as 2 attacks, you count them as 1, right? This is 1 skill, this is 1 skill, so that's 30%. Stop! That is insane! Nothing warrants, nothing from her visual appearance warranted what I was about to read here. I really want to see her animations in a fight, you guys. I really want to see how she moves and what her skills look like. Oh, okay, this is unfortunately one of the champions that I'm gonna have to put down on my wish list, because what do you mean? This is such an interesting champion, such a cool, niche, different little fairy. I love her. I love what she brings to the table, to the function, you guys. Where would I plug her? Mainly arena, you guys. She just sounds like a massive arena beast. Whether it's gonna be live arena, classic arena, I'm a little surprised that she doesn't come with some speed aura. She comes with an ally attack in all battles by 30%. 30% increase, that's like Alice type beat aura. Very solid. It's gonna make her smack really hard because she ignores some defense here. Where did I see it? She ignores shield strengthens, she ignores block damage under Hex. And here on her passive, she ignores 10% of any target's defense when she kills 1 or more enemies in a battle. This is crazy. The turn meter increases with the Hex are most appealing to me. Very, very good champion. Let's see the other one, you guys. Kaldor, the faction unity champion of the Sylvan Watchers, the flag. Oh, you guys. The antlers, with the arrows, with the embroidery. I'm always so impressed by the details. Whoever works in the designer department in Plarium deserves a raise. All of you deserve a raise. He got the dreads. He got the Sylvan Watcher dreads going on. He got that Targaryen vibe about him. The aura of a Targaryen prince. I'm obsessed that they finally have their faction unity champion, you guys. Let's read his skills. He's an attack champion. Once again, we have another nuker, and he's of spirit, so you can get him through a sacred shard, which is wonderful news. Or an ancient, for that matter, if you're lucky. Let's see. He attacks all enemies on an A1 instantly, and AoE. He has a 15% chance of placing a stun for 1 turn. And we'll ignore 20% of each target's resistance for each continuous heal buff on this champion. Dare I say that they might come from that A2, considering how this looks. Whoa. This is a long instruction. Select the target. If the target is an enemy, decreases the duration of all buffs on all enemies by 1 turn. Then places a 5% poison debuff on all enemies for 2 turns, and an additional 5% poison for 2 turns for each continuous heal buff on this champion. Once again, we have the continuous heal conditionality. I don't want to spoil anything for myself. I'll just keep reading. These debuffs, the poisons, cannot be resisted, and the decrease of the duration of all buffs, I'm assuming, then instantly activates all poison debuffs on all enemies. Oh my god. He doesn't even let them take a turn to activate that poison. He just activates it. Now, if the target selected is an ally, increases the duration of all buffs on all allies by 1 turn, same as above, but reversed, the good kind, and instantly activates all continuous heal buffs on all allies. What does that mean? How many continuous heals are we talking? Wait. Places a perfect veil buff on this champion for 2 turns. Alright, as if that wasn't enough. And places a 15% continuous heal buff on this champion for 2 turns. And another 15% continuous heal buff for each alive ally for 2 turns. Finally, fills this champion's turn meter by 15% for each buff or debuff placed by this skill. Oh my god. This, again, is absolutely insane. Orchestra of War is a very appropriate name. This is a very, very arena and very PvE at the same time skill, you guys. This is perfectly... You can take advantage of this skill anywhere, and I am immediately thinking even some clan boss formations, some Hydra formations, some bosses, you know? Moving on. Rhythms Crescendo. I love that he's worded as some conductor here, some musical prodigy. Attack, by the way, damage is based off, I'm just seeing this. This attack's damage is based off attack and enemy max HP, which is something I always like to hear. Attacks one enemy before attacking has a 100% chance of removing all buffs from the target. Complete buff strip. That's a 100% chance outright, and places a 60% decreased defense debuff and a 25% weaken debuff on the target for 2 turns. This all happens on a 100% chance. Will ignore 20% of the target's resistance for each continuous heal buff on this champion, and here you can activate more than 4. Which is great. That ignores a lot of the target's resistance. So you are most probably definitely gonna land that decreased defense and the weaken, right? Now let's see what the unity bonuses are here. For one faction ally, he removes all buffs from all enemies if the initial target is killed. This buff removal cannot be resisted because you attack one enemy and you completely strip them. When you bring along just another faction ally, that is a complete AoE buff strip that is irresistible. For 2 faction allies, he ignores 5% of the target's defense for each poison debuff on them and each continuous heal buff on this champion. Speaking of the utility of this crazy A2, he can stack up at least, oh man, he can stack up at least minimum 4 poisons in there, and that is, woof, that is a good solid 20% of the target's defense, which is insane. That's nearly He-Man level smack. I don't know how it would be in real life though. I'm really curious to see, and now I have the champions to orchestrate that. 3 faction allies. If the initial target is under a poison debuff, also attacks all other enemies. The damage dealt is proportional to the initial target's max HP and how many poison debuffs are on them. If the initial target is a boss or a minion, the damage dealt is equal to 10%! 10% of their max HP is insane! If you take that guy, let's say dragon, let's say spider, you can melt down the spider with this. You can melt down the spider with this. These poisons will explode before the big spider even has a chance of taking a turn because he instantly activates the poison debuffs on all enemies. Crazy. I don't know how much for a demon lord specifically. Maybe Hydra is what I'm assuming, right? But Curse City, Doom Tower, and the dungeon bosses fear you with the Blade Courser Caldor. That's crazy, you guys. Let's see the passive here. Sylvan Symphony. Will ignore 15% of the target's defense when attacking while under a veil or perfect veil. And this champion receives 30% less damage from enemies when not under a veil or perfect veil. So he comes with a tank, inbuilt tank, where he mitigates 30% of the damage that he receives from enemies when he's not veiled, and then when he's veiled, he smacks super hard. So definitely you can take him in Hydra, this guy. Yeah, 100%. Let's read the faction ally bonuses. For one ally, each continuous heal buff on this champion increases their crit rate by 20%! What do you mean? And you already come with the 63% base crit damage, brother? No, I'm so curious to see what this guy can do. For 2 faction allies, each time a continuous heal buff activates on this champion, also fills their turn meter by 8%. Where else do we see a turn meter fill here? It finally fills this champion's turn meter by 15% for each buff or debuff placed by this skill, depending on what your target is. That is another 8% for each time a continuous heal buff activates on this champion. For 3 faction allies, each time a continuous heal buff activates on this champion or an ally, increases this champion's damage by 5%, stacks up to 150! Wow! Woo! That hits hard, you guys. That guy hits hard. He really doesn't give off the impression, you know, he gives off the impression of a speed champion, but he's a hidden assassin, you guys. He's a hidden blade master. Friggin', look at the hooks. And now the aura. Increases ally crit rate in all battles by 25% and ally speed in all battles by 15%. For the Sylvan Watchers, here's where the speed that I was kind of missing came in clutch. I was wondering, okay, anything with speed, everything predisposes for you to manipulate a little bit more. Oh, he does. That ally speed in all battles by 15% is very, very helpful. You guys, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Look at the champions that I have here. Look at this trio alone with just a Rathia and a Caldor. I can dominate. And not even considering that I have my Celiac Orn. You don't want to see me coming. And I'm also getting Elva at some point. I'm 100% sure. I'm also getting Siarsha. This is Dream Team situation. Now there is another champion. A Lizard Man. Karen the Harvester. That we haven't checked out yet before we move on to the fusion and telling you what I think about it. I literally just read his name. Karen. Yeah, there you go. Karen the Harvester. Ooh, that's bees. That's a beehive. Yo. Instantly a fan. The Lizardmen deserved an expansion. They deserve an expansion because while we have, yes, champions like Velgamkar, like Nekmothar, like Dracomorph, like Pythian, they have little champions. Overall, it's a small little faction compared to some Sacred Order, let's say. Sacred Order is chock-full. So they really needed that upgrade, and I'm very happy that he's a Magic Affinity champion. Support champion. I feel like they need more nukers. Why don't you guys think? More good nukers. But that's just my humble opinion. Let's see if he's at least good as a support. Because the beehive here indicates that he's a good guy. He cares about the world and perseverance. Biting infestation. Okay, this has nothing positive about it, actually. Attacks all enemies, which is amazing. Has a 50% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed. Good soup. For 2 turns. Steals 5% of each enemy's turn meter. Steals 10% of each enemy's turn meter instead if they're under a decreased speed debuff. Does this happen immediately after placing the decreased speed? Because in this case, you'll most probably, if you make that land a lot, and you can only book it up to a 75% chance, so it has some chance of not landing. But if you do manage to make that land a lot, that's mostly a 10% steal. From each enemy would indicate between 4 or 5 right enemies. That's almost half a turn meter fill. It's good soup, if you ask me. It's good soup. And it's a decreased speed, which you always need. And it's on an A1. You don't need a cooldown of that one. It's great. You always have a chance of placing that decreased speed. And it's for 2 turns, so in case it didn't land the first time, you might have a chance of landing it the second time around, you know? Before this debuff expires. On an A2, he attacks one enemy, puts all of the target skills on cooldown. On one, I presume, one cooldown. Has a 75% chance of decreasing the turn meters of all enemies under a sleep debuff by 15, okay? And a 75% chance of decreasing the turn meters of all enemies without a sleep debuff by 30% instead. So if you're sleeping, you have it the easy way out. If you're not sleeping, you get a good chunk of your turn meters stolen from you. Decreased. He doesn't take it for himself, he just decreases it. Puts all of the target skills on cooldown is dope though. Dope. So the sleep probably comes in the A3, right? Yep. Attacks all enemies. Ooh! I love seeing all enemies. That means most of these effects are going to be placed on all enemies. You don't have to target one guy all the time. The more support you can provide, the better. Attacks all enemies with a 75% chance of placing a sleep on all enemies for 1 turn. Will ignore any block debuffs buffs. Ooh, this last part was so crucial. This is so good, you guys. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if your enemies are trying to block your attempts at putting them to sleep. You can still crowd control them with this guy and with this skill. Grants an extra turn after that, just so you can maybe finish the job with the A2, decrease the cooldown of one guy's skills, and then steal their turn meters by 15% if that's the way you want to go. You can also go the other route, place on everyone under sleep, then place decreased speed on them and steal everyone's turn meter and make them incapable of taking a turn, basically. And you can save that A2 to come before the A1 for the additional 30% increase of the turn meter, because it just seems like it's better to hit the enemies with the A2 before you've put the sleep on them. Now on his passive, he has a passive and an active effect, the Weed Out passive. The passive effect is whenever an enemy attempts to increase their turn meter, decreases the value of that turn meter fill effect by 25%, so almost like a heal reduction, but a turn meter reduction instead. Ooh, juice. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. Checks out. The active effect, whenever a sleep debuff is removed or expires on a target, instantly activates the Treshmaster's skill, Treshmaster A2, on that target. Oh boy! So the moment the sleep from here is done, you just hit them with the A2 instantly? That is an active effect though, so you have to let it actually charge on a cooldown. 1 turn though, it's not much. Does not work if a sleep debuff is removed by damage. I'm digging Karen the Harvester, and I'm digging his character design as well. Love the bees, love the staff, love the vibe of the champions that we were introduced today with the new patch. Let's bring you back to the elephant in the room, you guys. Listen here. Legendary High Elf Defense Champ. I know nothing about this guy. I have seen no spoilers. I have watched no videos. This is absolutely blind reacting for me. So I'm just gonna go over his skills very quickly without commenting. Double hitter. With the first hit has a chance of placing a hex for 2 turns and places a 30% increased crit damage buff on himself for 2 turns after placing this hex. Attacks one enemy twice, has a 20% chance of repeating the attack, so that's a quadruple hitter, maybe. When this champion counterattacks or teams up with allies to join an attack, will use this skill instead of their default skill. The damage inflicted by this skill increases by 10% for each time an ally is devoured. Devoured! Stacks up to 50%. Is that a targetly, specifically Hydra champion? Because the choice of words here, devoured, immediately lets me think, oh, the heads. We need champions to be devoured so that this can trigger. Attacks all enemies twice on an A3. Each hit has a 75% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed, good, on all enemies, and a 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns. If a target is under a hex, places these debuffs before attacking. Ooh. So because this is a double hitter, you most certainly place at least 1 debuff, one of these, right? If the target is under a hex, which you would want, oof, this is Hydra, you guys. It screams Hydra. Literally, will ignore life barrier and ally protection buff. That's literally Hydra. Increases this champion's defense by 5% for each active buff on this champion. Stacks up to 50%. Oh, let me guess. His aura has something to do with Hydra. No, almost. Increases ally defense in all battles by 28%. It's really important to have good defense in Hydra. So this Listen Tier Beastbane guy is a Hydra specialist. So this feels like a very targeted fusion. You know what I mean? If you really, really need the help in Hydra, yeah, absolutely. This guy will do the tanky, dirty work for you. This hex is of utmost importance. So I say go for it if you're stuck in Hydra and you have been stuck there for months and you don't know what to do. This might help you out. I also want to read a little bit about Yuzan the Marooned. Very important to note that this guy is a Void epic. And he's an HP champion. And I'm kind of lacking Skinwalker HP champions. So let's give that a read very quickly. Attacks one enemy, transfers a random debuff from this champion to the target, and then heals himself by 10% of his max HP. On an A1, very, very cute. On an A2, attacks all enemies, splendid. Has a 75% chance once you book it at 100 of removing 2 random buffs from all enemies. Okay. And then heals this champion by 10% of their max HP for each buff removed by this skill. You could remove many buffs that way. Say you're fighting a full team of like 5 enemies and you remove 2 buffs from each, that is 80%. That is an 80% heal. That's a big heal. On his A3, he removes 1 random debuff from all allies. Heals all allies by 20% of this champion's max HP and places a block debuffs buff on all allies for 2 turns. Very cute. Very cute. The random debuff, whatever, you can take this guy just for a little bit of help in like Faction Wars. Faction Wars, you can get very far with this guy in Faction Wars, I have a feeling. Especially with my roster and the way that I'm limited with champions, this guy is literally the missing piece of the puzzle for me to push below like stage 9 in this faction crypt, you guys. The block debuffs buffs on all allies, very, very cute. Heals all allies by 20% of his max HP, also very cute because you're stacking him with HP anyway. It's gonna be a very high percent. This guy can tank you and can carry you. Kind soul. Aww. That's what it gives. That's the kind of vibe that this champion gives. Very nice. Just very considerate. Whenever this champion heals themselves using a skill, also heals all allies by 20% of any surplus heal. So when this is a full heal and it exceeds his max HP, the surplus goes for all of your allies, and that's 20% of the surplus. It's very helpful, you guys. I might actually just get myself a Yuzan and honestly call it a day. I am short on money Not short on energy and gems for that matter, but I am a little short on money and a little short on shards. So I'm thinking I don't want to necessarily push something that I'm not prepared for, especially when I just came back from vacation last week. I haven't really had the chance to prepare a lot of food champions, if you know what I mean. I maybe have 6 or 7 laying around, like 4 stars. A lot of chickens for that matter, but it will be a push. It will be a little bit of a push. So what I'm thinking is just get a Yuzan, get one of those get one of them skinwalkers, because he sounds like a big help for where I'm at. The Hydra guy sounds very, very cool. But I also just checked that you're gonna only have 50 more. Oh, thank God. Wow, made it back to gold 4 the ranking season, you guys. Oh yes, finally we can get some medals. So this is what I'm thinking of doing, you guys, honestly and genuinely. I wasn't prepared for Fabian, and I'm not prepared for this one, but I also don't feel too bad about skipping this one, because I have something to work with in Hydra. I am getting fragments, I am getting the good gear, I'm getting protection, I'm getting stone skin. So I'm getting what I want out of it, and I just finished speed tuning and finalizing my Ultra Nightmare Clan boss team. So now I'm just slowly making my way up in the Arbiter missions. I'm trying to get Arbiter as soon as I can. I just pulled 2 cold hearts. You know, I have champions to build out and I have progress to make. So this is my reasoning for why I'm not gonna grind too much during this fusion, you guys. But I'll do my best to get myself one of them epics. What about you guys? Are you thinking of participating in this fusion? There might be some of y'all that will really benefit from this guy. So let me know in the comment section what you think about it. Let me know in the comment section what you think about the Sylvan Watchers, because I'm obsessed with what they have going on there with the new 2 additions, especially particularly that fairy. Now I can't remember what exactly she was named. That Void Fairy, you guys. I'm gonna be thinking about her for some time. Manifesting her. Guys, I wish you a very wonderful fusion if you're participating. May the odds be ever in your favor. I'm gonna be rooting for you, and I'm gonna be updating you with my own journey. So stick with me, and I'll catch you guys again tomorrow. Bye!